Welcome back to YGO Podcast. This is old guy, um, better known as Patrick Ramsey. I really enjoy all the views that I've got on the last Trickstar Runic video. I'd like to keep bringing you guys updated deck profiles on those videos. I've got some plans for Runic as well as Trickstar. There's some pure builds out there that I really like to capitalize on and show you, especially Trickstar Burn. There's one where it's like OTK, FTK, very good deck that I think is kind of a sleeper. Definitely rogue for this format, considering the powerhouses that we have coming in. So I like decks that are like that. I do like to try to make them as competitive as possible. However, I do appreciate all the views, including our new subscribers on the channel. Thank you guys. And if you couldn't tell already, this is my own version of the Umi Control or Kairyu-Shin Control Deck. This is going to be something that I specialize in. I like these like weird niche-like decks. Stuff that you people won't really expect. So without talking too much, let's go ahead and get into it. And let's start off with the three main monsters. So you've got the Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu-Shin, basically a Gozen match, and once per turn it can search out a Kairyu-Shin spell, I believe, spell or trap or Kairyu-Shin card. So this card is pretty busted. It really locks your opponent into, committing, especially if you summon it on the board and they have a bunch of different attributes. This really hurts them. The only way that they can stop this effect, so let's say they've got 5 monsters out, if you summon this on the board, they have to send. Even if that summon is going to be destroyed, if this hits the board and its effect is not negated, your opponent will have to send. It's a big liability to have on the board for your opponent, and also it just slows the game down quite a bit, so your opponent will waste a lot of resources trying to get this off the field. Next cards. 3 of the Electric Jellyfish. I think Electric Jellyfish is super good in terms of what it can do. I mean, it can special summon a water monster from your hand. It can send an Umi from your deck to the grave. And then it's also, I believe, an Omni Negate. If it's not an Omni Negate, let me see. Yep, monster effect, spell, or spell card effect. So it doesn't negate traps, but it's almost an Omni Negate. It's very good negate. Plus it gains permanent 600 every time it negates. However, even if you have 2 jellyfish on the field, you can only activate one of their effects to negate. So it kind of gets in the way of itself if there's too many copies of it. You really only need 1 to stack. The other 2 will kind of be for Xyz plays, which I'll show you. They'll come up in the extra deck, and you can see about that, see if you like it. Next 3. So 1 Doom Kraken, 1 Mega Fortress Swell, and you know what, we'll go ahead and do 2 more. Why not? And we got 2 Warrior of Atlantis. Yes, first edition. I'm just kidding, not first. Sad boy, but it is what it is. I found some OT copies that I really liked. Doom Kraken essentially is a hand trap. I've seen people play this at 2 or 3. I think that's way too much. You can really recycle this thing. If your opponent declares a direct attack, you can or not a direct attack, but an attack, you can bounce. You can bounce their monsters. It'll special summon itself, and it can return itself from the field back to the hand. So it's really sneaky. And one of these should really do you well, considering you can only use each of its effects once per turn. Anyway, so you really only need 1 copy. It's not like you can activate multiple. If you could, that would be completely freaking broken, and I would definitely be playing 3, but 1 for now. Fortress Well, I think it's Mega Fortress Well if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yes, Mega Fortress Well. Mega Fortress Well is really good with Sea Stealth Attack. I'll get to that card here in a few minutes. So Sea Stealth Attack is essentially a card that will be able to banish this and then destroy it. Or, bring this back from the graveyard and stuff like that and then destroy it during the battle phase and then destroy it. That kind of stuff really helps out a lot. especially for this card's effect. When it's destroyed, you can special summon one water warrior monster from your deck to the grave. But also, this card facilitates a lot of OTKs. So if your opponent still has a field that you can't get through in terms of attack, it'll allow you to have all your water monsters attack directly for that turn. So this card is really, really strong. You can't really special summon it, so a lot of times you just ditch it. And I also threw in this card because I didn't see anyone using this card. Now, technically, this card is supposed to be used with the Legendary Fisherman. I don't think that that's necessary. You don't have to use the Legendary Fisherman. I think there are other better water warrior types in the game. And Neospacian Aqua Dolphin is one. So when this card is destroyed, you can special summon Aqua Dolphin from your deck, special summon this card, and then you rip a card out of your opponent's hand. So this is, or you at least have hand knowledge for your opponent, so you'll know what you can play next. This card is completely great in this deck. I wish it was ulti the match with the other. Warrior of Atlantis, should it be 2? Should it be 3? It depends on what your playstyle is. I have a lot of ways to search the field spell, and I think that this card is just kind of a little bit more sauce than substance. So 2 for me is great. You don't really search this card out. You just kind of like, oh, if you have it, then you pitch it, you grab Legendary Ocean. But you have a few ways to search Legendary Ocean in this deck already, so I don't really see a need for you to overdo it on 3 of this copy, although you do want to see it. And for the last monster, I run a Gamma Seal. Pretty self-explanatory. Spot removal, getting stuff off the field that you really don't like. Baron the floors will hurt you. And a lot of other cards that are just kind of big boss monsters that your opponent can set up on turn 1. So that's all for the monsters. On to the spells. 3 Legendary Ocean. Pretty sure you know what this does by now, especially if you're watching this video. Reduces all water monsters, I believe, on the field and in hand by 1 star. Gives 200 attack. No real excess necessary to explain. You need it in order to activate a lot of your combos. So if you notice, I don't run a vanilla monster, but I do play Fish Sonar. I don't like the idea of a vanilla monster. Now, when we get Infernal Queen Salmon, that might change my mind. So if you don't know, the new set, Darkwing Blast, comes with Infernal Queen Salmon, and her effect is based around, she is a, I believe, dark fish type monster. Her effect is based around having a normal monster, sending one from I think the deck, or special summoning it from the grave. I'm not exactly sure. If I get a chance, I'll try to post something in the video to where you can see the effect. But something to that effect, I might run both of those, Terror King Salmon and Infernal Queen, in the deck as well, just to kind of help make some combos faster. But as you know, Fish Sonar, you can search out, you can add a level 7 or lower monster from your deck to your hand that mentions Umi in its card text. So dang near almost all of the cards that we run mention Umi in their card text. It's a great card. Sea Stealth Attack 2, even better card. This card right here is awesome. The card it says this card name becomes Umi whether it's on the field or in the graveyard. It says your opponent cannot target water monsters you control with non-water monster effects. At the start of the battle phase, you can special summon from your hand or graveyard 1 monster that mentions Umi, or 1 water normal monster in defense, but destroy it at the end of the battle phase. So this is how you bring out Mega Fortress Will. When it dies, when it's destroyed, it'll special summon a water warrior monster from your deck, I believe. But this card right here, since it works as Umi, when you have Kairyu-Shin in your hand, if you have any Yumi-based water monsters in your hand, and this card, you can get their effects as this is treated as Umi, and you can gain the additional non-targeting. So that is something that your opponent, if you're noticing, it's a lot of opponent can't do something with most of these cards effect, which means control deck. So these 2 right here, Fury of the Kairyu-Shin, technically you can play 1 or 2. In my opinion, I think 2 is great because this is a card that always will get you one torrential tribute, and then it'll protect your monsters from destruction. I think this is a card that you can use to really beef up your monsters. Your opponent, if they know that they can't destroy something the first go around, it's going to be extremely hard and demotivating for your opponent to keep on attempting to destroy something. So I like to run these at 2, and I'll show you how many I run at Torrential Tribute. But a lot of cards that people forget is this card. So out of every deck profile, I don't think I've seen this card at all. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's called Sea Lord's Amulet. It says, send this card to the graveyard during your opponent's third in phase after activation. Water monsters you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So this card is super sauce, in my opinion. This card is very good. Doesn't do anything. Okay, so I know what you're saying. That's why it's at 1. If you're thinking that, hey, this card is great, but it doesn't do anything or it doesn't do much, this is something that you really want, because when you're sitting on Kairyu-Shin, he's got low attack. He's got a lot of different, vulnerabilities, and I guess that's due to card design. But this right here will help protect for any kind of inconsistencies that you didn't account for. So I like this card a lot. I run it at 1. You can side it out for sure. You need cards to side out, so this would be 1 as well. And getting down to the last spells, 3 Prosperity, 1 Call By, and 1 Terraforming, then 1 Metaverse. So ways to get to field spell, protection, and searching. Now, can you run other cards? Yes, you can. So you can run, definitely, if you'd like, you can try out Pot of Extravagance. Essentially, the extra deck is not really needed for this deck, so you could run Pot of Extravagance if a draw 2 is much better for you, rather than searching the top 6 and just adding 1. So to each their own, and I leave that option completely open for you to choose whichever one best fits your playstyle. So on to the traps. So Sea Stealth Attack. Okay, so this card is it's pretty bananas, actually, how many effects that this card actually has. So when you activate it, you can activate 1 Umi directly from your deck or your graveyard. So you can just activate it. So if you've been dumping Umis with the jellyfish, and then you come into this card and then you activate it, then you can activate 1 of those Umis that in your graveyard directly into your field zone. Then this card has other effects that just make it kind of just OD, in my opinion. It says once per turn you can banish 1 water monster your opponent, 1 water monster you control until the end phase. This turn, face up spell trap cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent. It's card effects. It says even if this card leaves the field. Then it says at the start of the damage step, if a water monster whose original level is 5 or higher battles an opponent's monster, destroys it. So it basically turns your monsters into constructs, and also gives them away, protects all of your spells and traps, excuse me, as well as 1 monster as well. So this card has a lot of shenanigans that it has with it, especially with Sea Stealth Attack 2. If you bring back a monster, you can activate Sea Stealth Attack to banish that monster, so that way it's not destroyed at the end of the battle phase. As well as you can chain this to a lot of different destruction effects. Like if your opponent has Harpy's Feather Duster and they want to duster you, you can activate this, banish a monster, and then all your stuff is protected. So this card's very, very good. I wouldn't play it at any less than 3. 1 Kairyu-Shin Reef, and then 2 Torrential Tribute. So there's a reason why I'm playing 2 Torrential. I'm playing 2 Fury of the Kairyu-Shin, so I would like to always have a target whenever I draw that card. Although you can search it with Ocean Dragon Lord, it's fine. I think that this is great. This provides a great means of interruption, especially you can Torrential. You're not having to wait for your opponent. You can Torrential your own cards. Dark Reef is great. I mean, this card is just busted as well. But the problem with it is that if you draw too many, it becomes too much of a hindrance. So Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef, you get to special summon 2, I believe, water monsters. You can send an Umi you control to the graveyard to special summon up to 2 monsters with different names from your hand and or deck that mention Umi, or our water normal monsters in defense position. So this is actually pretty busted. It is, but running it at more than one kind of gets a little cloggy. Besides, you can also search this out. So it really does help, but I wouldn't run it more than one. I think one would be great. And for the last couple cards here are just kind of some extra sauce. So I've got triple Gozen, and I've got double there can be only one. Pretty self-explanatory floodgates to help you with, just essentially locking your opponent down, making your opponent want to go to game 2 automatically. So some cards you didn't notice in the main deck, okay? Some cards that you can play in the main deck, all right? And as well as in the side. Everybody's favorite card. You can definitely play this in the main or the side, whichever your playstyle goes to. We won't even say its name. You can see what this card is. So it's up to you whether you want to play it. I choose not to. Now, will I lose some games because I'm not playing this card? Probably, but that is my choice. So with your choice, just letting you know what you can play. I would recommend that you give it some thought and add it to your strategy if you feel that it adds some value, if it has any added value. Another card is this as well. You run a lot of tributes in your deck, so a lot of times Legendary Ocean will help you out with that tribute stuff. But I do think that if you are wise, you can run stuff like this. Although you can't search it, it does feel bad to tribute your opponent's monster off one of them, then summon an Ocean Dragon Lord, and then which they send everything anyway. So that's pretty good. And I noticed that sometimes when you don't have Umi and you have Ocean Dragon Lord in hand, it feels bad. So this card can sometimes help out with those kind of strange hands, but it's something to consider in the main deck or in the side. Depends on how you want it. It's at 1, so that's up to you. Extra deck time. So the extra deck is just going to be a bunch of super poly targets for one. So let's go ahead and start. So Mud Dragon, Chimera, Dragostapelia, Starving Venom, whatever the Fusion Trishula, Icy Dragon, whatever it is. This guy, Predaplant, Triple Theratium, Guardian Chimera. So a lot of those are all super poly targets. You can definitely use them for whatever you need them for. I like it. That's basically what I can say about them. That's pretty much it. Some of the other cards that are a little bit better used here is Bahamut Shark and Toad. I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory for most folks. Terribly Tired Tapir. This is actually pretty good. This is help with stall. And one thing I wanted to add to this deck that I noticed that it's kind of slow as far as recursion goes. The deck doesn't have very much recursion. Once something's in the graveyard, usually it stays there. And if you're a resource waster, then you're going to be hurting quite a bit. So if you notice, a lot of cards do not discard in the deck. We don't really like that in this kind of control deck. There's not very much recursion. So I decided to add in a Daigusto Emerald just in case. You will go through some monsters and you'll get this effect out quite a bit. And I think that it actually it helps the strategy. I think that that's pretty good. So it helps with the draw, and it helps with I guess recycling back. Like if your opponent somehow by the grace of God, they get, you go through a whole bunch of monsters and you're able to recycle back some stuff, including your kaiju. That it really does help to have that recursion. So enough about that. That's going to be your Exceed monsters. And then for the last ones, I think they're pretty self-explanatory. They're links. So you've got Iria the Water Charmer, pretty self-explanatory. Mermail Abyss Alacia, and then you've got Miss Starboy. So those three, they're pretty standard in any type of water deck that you'll see. Their effects are pretty sweet. I recommend checking them out if you plan on running this kind of deck. Their investment is relatively low. 2 monsters. You'll most likely have those, especially if you go first and you get the deck strategy up and running. So that's pretty much it for the extra deck. Let's go into the side really fast. I've got 3 of these. So essentially what I noticed is that when your opponent activates effects, right, they're going to be responding mostly to try to get your Ocean Dragon Lord off the field. So this card really comes in handy when it comes to essentially getting rid of those monsters that are trying to respond to the Ocean Dragon Lord hitting the field, or really any other card effect. So this to me was like something that I thought was like a really spicy tech going into game 2, and something that not a lot of people are utilizing at the moment. I think it's really good. I like this card, especially in the side deck when you can side into it. Your opponent never is going to expect something like this. So to me, it's a good card. Would I say that Nibiru is a decent card as well? I would say that Nibiru is a decent card. I just think that this one kind of fits the niche here for this deck specifically. Most of the time you're going to be, if you want to go second or first, whichever, I think that this card is an awesome card to break boards if you're going to go second. So that's what, what that card is for. And also, I would definitely, if you have recommendations, please comment below. Make sure that your voice is heard. Especially, I can try out some different things, make some videos, do some updates, get some replays going. So 3 would be Demise of the Land. So of course, if you're going to be running Mystic Mine, or you're going to be running just the field spell in general, and I mean, why wouldn't you, right? This card is really good for if you're able to get your Ocean Dragon Lord out on the field. And of course, his effect is not applying, so kind of works like a trap card. So once the Umi is out on the field, after you activate this card, of course, Ocean Dragon Lord's effect applies and your opponent has to send. So this card is a really good card to have in terms of just kind of going first or second. And it sets up a good little trap for your opponent to fall into, especially if they play into it. Makes it kind of hard to play out of once that Umi's on the field and they have to send. They waste a lot of resources that they could have used in order to stop you. So I do like Demise of the Land. It works with the card that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, there's that. Then I've got these 2. I don't really think we're too much into a back row format, but if you're going to be playing against somebody else who's using Mystic Mine, you need to draw the out, correct? So go ahead and draw the out. That's why we put it in the side deck, just in case. A lot of times we're not really concerned about the game state being extremely slow. That's what we're kind of there for. We have a lot of protection cards, and we also have some cards that can keep getting other cards off the field. So I do like having that extra spell and trap removal. Then, of course, if you're going second, of course, you want to play this card. So I'm actually going to put this up here as well because I want to get through the rest of the side deck. And here is your Super Poly. We went through the Super Poly targets in the extra deck, so you know exactly what you're going to be getting yourself into. But also, if you're going second, you can kind of neutralize a lot of those other cards. Then when you get Ocean Dragon Lord on the field, those cards become ultimately neutralized because they will be in the graveyard most likely. So where the deck does excel, in my opinion, is Super Poly and this. When you're going second, it really does hurt your opponent. The only thing I don't like is you have to discard a card. Like I said, resource game in the deck is very hard to come by. That's why you have the Daigusto Emerald in the extra deck to help kind of get those resources back a little bit throughout the duel. I don't really think that you will need it, but it's there just in case. So that is pretty much it for the side deck. and for the deck profile in general. I do like you guys tuning in and whatnot, you know. I do like you guys tuning in and looking at stuff and making sure that we are staying, you know, with a consistent schedule for updates. Please keep coming back if you can. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any recommendations, like I said earlier, please post them in the comment section below. I really do like this deck. I really do think that you guys, if you have a chance to play it, go ahead and play it. See how you like it. Let me know what you think. As for TCG Decks, YGO TCG Decks, please join us on Facebook at YGO TCG Decks. My name is Patrick, and this is the end of the deck profile. Have a great day. Bye.